don't want peace. They want to wipe them off the map. But the Bible not only prophesies that this would happen, but in Zechariah 12, it says that Israel will be very strong. Ezekiel also talks about that, militarily very strong in the last days. And, of course, we're seeing that. So one possible scenario is when the catalyst happens, whatever the catalyst is, that Israel will, like they did in 1967 with the Six-Day War, they may devastate their enemies with overwhelming force very rapidly in a matter of days, subdue the terrorists, and then finally think they have peace. Because in Ezekiel 38, as you mentioned, they're dwelling in the land securely, or at least with a sense of security, when Russia, Iran, and the big neighbors attack. And so that would be a perfect setup. And, of course, that would also, I think, set up the world for, peace, peace. Because the Bible says when the world says peace, peace, and sudden destruction comes upon them, even though Israel is the bad guy portrayed in the world does not want the terrorists. And so if Israel subdued the terrorists, the whole world would breathe a collective sigh of relief. And it could be at that point when the world's saying peace, peace, that possibly the rapture happens. We know the rapture is imminent. It could happen today. But we also know that Jesus said it'd be like the days of Noah, the days of Lot. The church of Laodicea would be lukewarm right to the end. And so I think that it's probably the trigger may happen, the rapture, that is, after the Psalm 83, Isaiah 17 war. Have you given that any thought?
Well, I'm often asked, where do I put the rapture? For some reason, as people hear me talk about sequencing Psalm 83 and Ezekiel 38, they tend to think that Psalm 83 has to happen before the rapture, and I don't necessarily know where they get that conclusion. However,
No.
I think the fact that Psalm 83 appears to be so nearby and finding final fulfillment, it does preclude the possibility that it could occur before the rapture. The church, of course, is still here. Now, I believe the rapture, I don't think the church is going to be here for Ezekiel 38 and 39, but we could be here for Psalm 83. Now, one of the reasons I don't believe we're here for Ezekiel 38 and 39 is because we're told 3 times God is calling Israel his people Israel. He says, in Ezekiel 39:7, the main end goal of Ezekiel 38 and 39 is that God will uphold his holy name in the midst of, he says, my people Israel, and the nations shall know I'm God. So, 3 times in Ezekiel 38, I think it's verse 14 and verse 16, and then Ezekiel 39:7, he's calling them my people Israel. So they're fulfilling a very important role in God's plan. Russia's coming against them, and he's going to uphold his holy name. Now, the other reason I don't think the church is necessarily here for that is that, and I do put Ezekiel 38 and 39 as a pre-tribulational event, is because I think God is going to uphold his holy name so that humanity can realize he is the promise-keeping God of Israel. It requires Israel being in the land in the latter years. The land he promised Abraham, they're going to be in this land, and he's going to uphold his holy name against this massive Gog of Magog invasion. And he wants the nations of the world to know, I've pulled these Jews out of the nations of the world. That was a sovereign thing. I protected them against this Russian invasion. I am a promise-keeping God. And the world is going to have to make a choice shortly thereafter between the God of Israel and the Antichrist system that's going to be put into place. And it's going to be a very powerful system. He's going to emerge, as you know, Jim, in 2 Thessalonians, on all signs and lying wonders. So God is going to give humanity a real wake-up call, and he's going to let them know he's a promise keeper, the God of Israel. This goes way back to the Abrahamic covenant, 4,000 years ago, and then they're going to have a choice to make. And I think we're getting very close to all these events starting to happen soon.
One of the things that I am concerned about, I believe most of us are as well in the United States that are Christians, is the Islamic influence now that is increasing in the United States and wanting to dedicate this mosque at Ground Zero on 9/11 here in the next couple of months. And your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm very concerned about it as well. And the pattern with Islam historically is they defeat an area, and claiming victory, they then erect some kind of monument or a mosque or something like that. So I think that you're looking at a statement that they're trying to make in this situation. Now, as I stated earlier, I was in the UK, and I flew into Heathrow Airport, and I felt like it almost went into a Middle East country. There was a lot of Muslims there. and they are really starting to saturate the middle of the UK. There's about 3 million Muslims over there, and there's 63 million in the UK presently. And they're starting to implement Sharia law in certain parts of the UK presently. This is the pattern. They come into these places. In France, it's almost 9% of their population now is turned Muslim. So they come into an area, and they want to, resurrect, build a lot of mosques, and then they want to get Sharia law implemented. Their goal is to subrogate the planet to Islam. So it is a very dangerous situation, and we are, and the problem with the UK that we're starting to have over here as well is they're all about politically being correct and, this sort of thing, and they're not calling a spade, if you will. And, we are in that same sort of trend over here in this country. So I think we do need to be very careful about this. And the other thing, too, you talked about the borders and this whole Arizona immigration episode that got upturned. There has been concern for a long time that there are terrorist cells that are, sleeping over across the south of the border in the Mexico area. So, we have to protect our borders from, for numerous reasons, and one of them is, of course, the increase of terrorism. So there's numerous reasons we should be concerned in America about these types of things, even the little things, this immigration bill. It's not quite so small. It's a big deal.
Well, we've reported before, Atlanta television station, Atlanta, Georgia, went and did a special on the border and found out that many of the people coming across are not from Mexico or Central America or South America. They found a huge number coming across from Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq and these different Middle Eastern countries, and they estimate that there could be well in excess of 10,000 right now people from the Middle East that have come into this country illegally as terror cells. And anybody that's trying to stop us from knowing who's coming across our border, you would have to almost wonder, are these people that are controlling this, are they part of this overthrow of America? Because who in the world would not want to stop illegal immigration? It doesn't make any sense unless there's a master plan, and that's to destroy America. And many people believe that. I don't think it's conspiracy theory anymore. I think it's reality, because common sense would tell you that anybody that would be trying in some way to stop us from knowing what's in our country, and these are people that are calling them judges and lawyers and stuff, you have to say there's something else going on here. And I think we all, deep down in our gut, know something is really wrong. Now, we as Christians, we know that the world's headed for a one world order. If people are not Christians, I think they still have that intuition, but they do not know what's going on, where this is all headed. And I think the powder keg is going to be the Middle East that's going to set it up.